Good day everyone, I am Kyla Iniferas from pre-GTLEHEB, your discussant for today, and I will be discussing about the 21st century education and the characteristics. First is, what is 21st century? What is the present century of the Gregorian calendar? It began on January 1, 2001 and will last to December 31, 2001. The common usage mistakenly believes January 1, 2000 to December 31, 2099 to hold this distinction. Technologically, it is different from the 20th century mostly by changes brought about by digital revolution of the 1980s, 1990s, and 2000s. Next is what is education. Education is the act or process of imparting or acquiring general knowledge, developing the powers of reasoning and judgment, and generally of preparing oneself of others intellectually for mature life. Next is, what is 21st century education? It is bold, it breaks the mold, it is flexible, creative, challenging, and complex. It addresses a rapidly changing world filled with fantastic new problems as well as exciting new possibilities. A 21st century education is about giving students the skill they need to succeed in this new world and helping them grow the confidence to practice those skills. 21st century skills focus more on making sense of that information and sharing and using it in smart ways. Coalition 21P Partnership for 21st Century Learning has identified four skills for today. The four skills for today are creativity, critical thinking, communication, and collaboration. These four themes are not to be understood as units or even subjects, but as themes that should be overlaid across all curriculum, mapping, and strategic planning. They should be part of every lesson in the same way as literacy and numeracy. Creativity, it is about thinking through information in new ways, making new connections, and coming up with innovative solutions to problems. Next is about critical thinking. It is about analyzing information and critiquing claims. Communication, it is understanding things enough to share them clearly with other people. And last is collaboration. It is teamwork and the collective genius of a group that is more than the sum of its parts. Next is about the value of 21st century education. Success looks different now than it did in the past. High achieving people are frequently choosing to opt out of the traditional job market and create their own jobs. Successful people increasingly expect to be able to live and work anywhere in the world, travel as often as they like, for as long as they like, change what they're working on to keep up with their interests and abilities, enjoy earning potential that is not capped by a salary figure, work with peers across the globe, outsource things they don't like doing, choose their own hours and office. For people who don't live like this, it can sound far-fetched, but this kind of lifestyle is growing rapidly. Next is about the seven characteristics of 21st century education. Seven characteristics of 21st century education. These seven features of 21st century learning and teaching are adapted from and built upon Paul Studd et al. 2012. First is personalized learning. A personalized approach recognizes that not all students learn in the same manner. Personalized learning involves differentiating instruction so that students can learn in ways that suit their personal needs. Educators can adjust their teaching methods in several ways. First is differentiate content difficulty. Second is differentiate modes of delivery, and last is differentiate assessment strategies. By contrast, the 20th century approach was characterized by a one-size-fits-all approach. In the old model, all students in the class were taught the same content in the same way at the same time. The significant shift from the one-size-fits-all the personalist approach can be attributed to evolving understanding of how people learn. Theories such as sociocultural theory gained prominence in the latter decades of the 20th century which are dominant in the 21st century. These theories recognize that learners are influenced significantly by social, cultural, and environmental factors which lead to differentiated outcomes. Many theories now believe that students need to learn through various different learning modalities depending on the student needs. Examples of personalized learning include differentiated instructions, mean teaching the same material to all students using a variety of instructional strategies, or it may require the teacher to deliver lessons at varying levels of difficulty based on the ability of each student. Next is individualized education plans. It is also known as an IEP. This is a plan or program developed to ensure that a child with an identified disability who is attending an elementary or secondary educational institutions receive specialized and related services. The third is about student-led projects in the classroom, and last is enhanced freedom choice in the classroom. Number two, equity, diversity, and inclusivity. In the 20th century, students were expected to conform to the mainstream or be excluded. But in the 21st century, social inclusion and difference are celebrated. We embrace equity, diversity, and inclusivity in classrooms by equity. A goal of 21st century educators is to achieve equality of outcomes. Educators are attempting to close achievement gaps between rich and poor. Next is diversity, that is now considered a strength in classroom. When students are different, they learn that different is okay. The difference is okay. They befriend people of different cultures and learn not to be afraid of other cultures around them. And last is inclusivity. We now believe that people of all ability levels, physical disabilities, or learning disabilities deserve to be included in mainstream classrooms. This can help them contribute to mainstream life and show them they are welcome and equal participants in the world. Driving factors behind the turn toward increased equity, diversity, inclusivity include a shift to the social model of disability, which argues that society needs to adapt to include people with learning and physical disabilities into mainstream classrooms. Next is increased cultural diversity, leading to greater awareness of differences between cultures. And last is feminist and critical theories gaining currency in society, leading to awareness of the need for greater gender equality. The third characteristic is about learning through doing. The central idea in the learning through doing approach is that we are much better at knowing, remembering, and using knowledge if we learn actively rather than through passive learning. When we are learning through doing, we have first-hand experience with applying information to the real world, get the opportunity to learn through trial and error so we know why something is true or not. Aren't told something, but rather we discover things through our engagement with the world around us. Learn information that isn't just theoretical but can be applied to things in our lives. These are many approaches to education that fit within this 21st century learning through doing paradigm. Here are just few. Cognitive constructivism. This is a theory of learning that believes we learn by constructing ideas in our heads rather than having them inserted into our minds. We construct information when we place ideas in our working memory, compare it to our existing prior knowledge, and make decisions about how useful, truthful, or valuable this new knowledge is to us before saving it, using to change our minds or discarding it. Next is problem-based learning or PBL. It's a teaching strategy based on cognitive constructivism. It involves learning through solving problems. This is clearly very different to learning by being told facts. That's because students aren't given answers to problems. They have to solve the problems themselves to discover the truth. And next is posing education or PPE. It is very similar to problem-based learning. In a problem-posing environment, the teacher or student will come up with a problem and present the problem to the class. The class and the teacher need to learn the answer to this problem together. So, not even the teacher enters the classroom with the answers in this approach. It therefore creates a very democratic co-learning atmosphere in the classroom. Next is phenomenon-based learning. It is an approach that is popular in Finland. Rad- Rather than learning through subjects mathematics, language, science, history, students focus on a phenomenon that requires them to use multiple different forms of knowledge from different subject areas to learn about the phenomenon in a holistic way. And last is about problem-based learning in a project-based classroom. Students will work on one big problem for many lessons, maybe even weeks or months at a time. Students will often work together and use resources around them, like community members or the internet to create something new. Next, next is about rethinking learner and teaching roles. In the 21st century, classrooms have changed from being teacher-centered to student-centered. In the past, students all focused on the teacher and listened to the teacher's words. Now, the teacher focuses on students who are the center of attention. In the 20th century, teacher and learner's roles were very vivid. Teacher as authority. The teacher was the active participant. They did all the talking and were the ultimate authority on all topics. They were the sage on the stage. This is why we often call a 20th century approach teacher-centered. Passive student. The student was the passive participant. They sat, listened, and memorized. They had very few opportunities to contribute their prior knowledge, exercise, choice, or challenge the teacher's point. In the 21st century, the roles of both the teacher and the student have changed. Teacher, teacher as facilitator. The teacher is now a co-learner with the students. The teacher may still need to control the environment by making it safe and focus on learning. The atmosphere of the classroom is still very much up to the teacher. However, teachers are no longer just the authorities on topics. Instead, their job is to help guide students. The student learn through active processes. The teacher is no longer the center of attention, the student. Active students. Students learn through doing rather than listening. The teacher is no longer the authority on knowledge, so students need to come to conclusion themselves using their critical thinking and creative skills. Next is community relationship. We are increasingly realizing how important community engagement is for learning. In our communities, there are amazingly useful people who can teach and inspire our students for better than we can. Teachers know they can't experts on everything, but there is an expert for every topic out there in the world. So teachers need to seek out experts and bring them into the classroom by leveraging the skills and knowledge of the community. We can create a better learning experience for our students. In multicultural societies, community members can also teach us about how to best teach children within this culture. For example, children from indigenous cultures may have grown up with very different learning styles from other children in the class. By engaging with local indigenous people, teachers can learn how best to teach those children in their class. Bringing people from different walks of life into the classroom also helps our students to create connections with people who aren't like themselves. This can help inclusion education for social justice and create links between people of different cultures. Next is about technology. Modern technologies can be incredibly helpful in classrooms today. It is important to use new learning technologies in appropriate ways. Students should not use technology to prevent them from thinking or help cheat instead. Technology should be used to help students access information. We call technologies that help students think harder cognitive tools for learning. And last characteristic is about teacher professionalization. Teaching children in this century is clearly much more complicated than it was in the last one. We need to create personalized lessons, be inclusive, aim for equality, encourage creativity, engage with the community, use technology to enhance learning. To ensure students get the best learning possible, teachers in the 21st century need ongoing training and support. One of the biggest challenges for teachers is the rapidly changing educational environment. New technologies are quickly coming into classroom to help personalize and support learning for all our students. Teachers need the ti- Teachers need time and space to learn how to use technology and new pedagogies and ways that will best help their students. And that's all. I hope you learned something. Thank you for listening.